Major Flint's voice cut through the still desert air, as hard and final as a sentence. Disarm her. It wasn't a request, it was an order that allowed no reply. 5 of the base's most decorated soldiers, men who moved with the lethal confidence of those who have made violence an art form, closed in around her. The woman at the center of it all, Wren Grey, didn't move a muscle. Her eyes remained fixed on an indistinct point on the horizon. For weeks, she had been a whisper, an anomaly, the bureaucratic error everyone called the ghost on the roster. But what was about to happen in the next 90 seconds would turn those whispers into thunder. It would pulverize reputations built over years of service and carve the name Wren Grey into the legend of this godforsaken place. How had it come to this? How could a single recruit, seemingly the weakest and most unfit, become the focus of a public execution? To understand, we have to go back. But before we reveal everything, let us know in the comments where you're listening from. It's incredible to see how vast our community truly is. And while you're there, if you appreciate stories that make you think, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It's just a click for you, but for us, it's immense support. Thank you from the heart. And now, let's return to the beginning of the mystery. It all began a month earlier, under a merciless sun. When the convoy of new recruits came to a halt, 17 identical figures stepped out, tense, fueled by adrenaline, dressed in standard-issue uniforms. And then there was her, the 18th. Wren Grey. She wasn't wearing a uniform. She had on civilian boots, cargo pants, and a plain gray t-shirt. While the others looked around, lost, she moved with an almost unnatural calm, her eyes registering exits, blind spots, personnel positions. It wasn't the gaze of a newcomer, it was the gaze of someone surveying the terrain. From high up in an observation tower, Sergeant Rick Miles narrowed his eyes. Miles was a man forged in the harshest discipline. For him, there were only 2 kinds of people, predators and prey. And this woman, in his eyes, was prey. A mistake to be crushed before she infected the group's morale. Look at her, he growled to a subordinate. She won't last a week. At that very moment, miles away, Captain Nora Pierce was staring at a monitor in her office. On the screen was Wren Grey's file. 7 pages. Dangerously empty. No commendations, no reprimands, only vague assignments. But at the very bottom, there was a line that made the blood run cold for Pierce, an officer who had seen it all. A Spectre-level authorization code. A level that didn't officially exist, associated with operations and people meant to remain buried. Pierce felt a shiver. This woman wasn't a mistake. She was a red flag. The days that followed became an ordeal orchestrated by Sergeant Miles. Every training exercise was a pretext to humiliate Wren. He assigned her the heaviest loads, publicly criticized her for the slightest imperfection, constantly searching for a reaction, a crack in her composure, a single tear. But he got nothing. Wren carried out every order with robotic precision, absorbing the humiliations without betraying the slightest emotion. Her calm was a personal affront to Miles, a wall of silence against which his arrogance shattered. But someone in the recruits' ranks was watching with different eyes. It was Private Sam Jones, a simple kid with a sharp instinct. While Miles saw only incompetence, Jones noticed the dissonances. During the disassembly and reassembly of a rifle, he saw that Wren's supposed clumsiness was an act. Her hands moved with a deep muscle memory, an economy of motion you don't learn in a basic course, but acquire to survive. During the grueling endurance runs, Jones timed her. Wren neither slowed down nor sped up. She maintained a mathematically perfect pace, down to the second. It wasn't fatigue, it was calibration. The final proof came at the firing range. The recruits shot with mediocre results. Then it was Wren's turn. She fired her 5 shots. When the target returned, Miles approached with a smirk, ready to mock her. But the smirk died on his lips. There weren't 5 holes in the target. There was only one, slightly ragged, dead center. An impossible grouping. Miles, unable to accept a reality that contradicted his judgment, mumbled something about beginner's luck and walked away. Jones, however, felt his blood run cold. He understood. That wasn't luck. It was absolute control. The tension reached its peak in the 4th week. Major Flint, determined to separate the wheat from the chaff, announced a reality drill. The rules were brutal. A single soldier, chosen by him, would have to survive for 90 seconds against 5 close-quarters combat specialists. Flint savored the fear-filled silence before speaking the name. Grey. It wasn't a test. It was an execution. The entire base gathered around the training ground. There was an arena-like atmosphere, everyone ready to witness the destruction of the ghost recruit. The 5 specialists warmed up, exchanging self-assured glances. To them, this was a game. Wren took her position in the center, calm as ever. Then, for a single instant, she closed her eyes. It wasn't fear. It wasn't preparation. It was an imperceptible sigh of resignation. A moment of silence for the mask that was about to fall, and for the violence that was, once again, the only language men like Flint and Miles would understand. Then she opened her eyes. And the ghost vanished, leaving the survivor in its place. Slowly, she rolled up the sleeves of her gray t-shirt. In her office, Captain Nora Pierce was watching the scene through high-powered binoculars. When she focused on Wren's arm, her heart stopped. She saw a small, barely visible tattoo, 7 vertical lines, with the last one crossed by a horizontal bar. It was the unofficial symbol of an elite Black Ops unit, codenamed Project Spectre. A unit that, according to the records, had been completely wiped out in a top-secret operation years ago. Pierce lowered the binoculars, her face pale, and whispered into the silence of her office, "My God. She's not a recruit. She's the sole survivor." Major Flint's whistle tore through the air. The first aggressor, a 240-pound giant, charged head-on. But when he reached the spot where Wren had been, she was gone. She had moved just inches, a fluid and almost imperceptible motion. As the man rushed past her, Wren's hand shot out, striking a precise point at the base of his neck with 2 fingers. The giant collapsed to the ground, unconscious, like a puppet whose strings had been cut. The other 4 attacked together, from different directions. But it was like trying to catch smoke. Wren didn't fight, she danced. What unfolded was not a brawl, but a lesson in physics, anatomy, and surgical violence. She used one attacker's momentum to send him crashing into his comrade. She blocked a kick and with an imperceptible twist, dislocated her opponent's knee joint. A palm strike to the solar plexus, an elbow to the temple. Every movement was essential, devoid of anger, frighteningly efficient. In less than a minute, all 5 men were on the ground, neutralized but not permanently injured. Wren was still again in the center of the field, her breathing only slightly quickened. 90 seconds. Not even 60 had passed. A tomb-like silence fell over the base, more deafening than any explosion. The smirk had vanished from Sergeant Miles's face, replaced by an expression of pure, paralyzing shock. His entire worldview, built on brute force and appearances, had just been shattered. It was Private Sam Jones who broke the spell. He began to clap. It wasn't the joyous applause of a victory, but a slow, almost solemn applause. An applause of recognition. An instant later, another soldier joined him, and then another, until the entire base was united in an ovation that did not celebrate violence, but honored a truth that had been right before their eyes the entire time. Wren Grey gave no sign. She collected her things, and with the same calm she had arrived with, she walked away. A few hours later, her name was erased from every base record. She had vanished, leaving behind only a legend. The story of Wren Grey teaches us something profound. We live in a world that constantly pushes us to judge a book by its cover, to evaluate people by how they look, what they wear, or how loud their voice is. The arrogance of Miles and Flint blinded them, preventing them from seeing the extraordinary truth right in front of them. They focused on the appearance, forgetting the substance. And now, we want to hear your voice. Have you ever been unfairly judged based solely on how you appeared? Or have you witnessed a situation where someone's true worth was completely overlooked? Share your experience in the comments. We read and appreciate every single story. If this video touched you and you think its message is important, please leave a like and share it. It might be the push someone needs. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss other stories that force us to see the world through different eyes. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Your support is our strength. And remember, true strength doesn't need to shout. See you soon.